At the checkout counter, I pointed to the 2 extra bottles of shampoo on the receipt. "Excuse me, we didn't take these 2 bottles of shampoo." The cashier frowned. "They've already been scanned. It's a hassle to refund them. Just take 2 more bottles." "But this was your mistake," I said, my voice rising slightly without me realizing. The crowd behind me in line began to stir, and I could hear impatient tets and sighs. My mom grabbed my arm and whispered sharply, "Stop making a scene." I insisted on a refund, but during the argument, a shelf collapsed and hit me right where it hurts. As I lay dying, I heard my parents say to those around us, "Our child didn't know any better. The money really doesn't matter to us." In the end, they took the supermarket's compensation, trading my life for $80,000. They cremated me hastily, telling those around them, "How disgraceful. This child brought it on themselves by being so petty." When I opened my eyes again, I was back at the checkout counter, my mother handing me the receipt out of habit. This time, I decided to be the bigger person. I looked at the receipt my mom handed me but didn't reach out to take it. "Mom, you check it yourself," I said with a smile, nudging the cart forward half a step. Her fingers visibly stiffened, the receipt trembling slightly between her fingertips. In the past, I was always the first to check the bill and spot any mistakes. "Vera, just take a look," my mother whispered, her eyes darting toward the line of people behind us. "Cashiers are professionals," I said calmly. "Besides, it's petty to argue over such a small amount." My mother's expression instantly grew complicated. She clearly saw those 2 bottles of shampoo on the bill that we never bought, just like in our previous life. But this time, no one would speak up for her. At checkout, I noticed her knuckles turning white as she gripped her phone. On the way home, she finally burst out, "Vera, we overpaid by 89 yuan, so what?" I replied casually. "Consider it buying the cashier a bubble tea." 5. That night, through the thin wall, I heard my parents arguing in hushed tones. "It's your fault for not paying closer attention, but you're the one who's always so good with numbers." It ended with my father's bitter curse. Consider it money down the drain. In the darkness, I smiled silently to myself. This was only the beginning. I'm what my family calls a penny pincher. When settling the bill at the restaurant, the server accidentally charged us for an extra steamed sea bass that cost 88 yuan. After carefully checking the bill, I politely pointed out the mistake. "Excuse me, we didn't order this dish," I said as I flipped to the corresponding page of the menu. My parents and younger sister, as if they had nothing to do with the situation. Dad didn't look up until the server apologized and returned the cash, frowning as he said, "Vera, it's rather undignified to make such a fuss over such a small amount." While accompanying my mom at the weekend market, the fruit vendor called out, "Fresh lychees, 10 yuan per jean." Mom picked up a bag and glanced at me hesitantly. I immediately caught her drift. "Boss," I said, pointing to another customer's bag, "you just sold that auntie over there 2 jean for 10 yuan. After some haggling, we settled on 10 yuan for 2 jean. Mom sighed as she took the lychees. "Vera, running a business is tough. Why be so particular about it?" The funniest was that time I went clothes shopping with my sister. The dress was clearly marked 199 yuan, but the checkout system showed 219 yuan. I was just about to speak when my sister gave my arm a hard pinch. "It's fine," she said to the cashier with a sweet smile. I must have misread the price. She paid so fast. It was like she was snatching a red envelope. The moment we stepped out of the store, my sister's expression changed. "Do you have any idea how much effort I put into building a good relationship with this store?" She immediately sent a voice message to her group chat with her best friends. My sister's embarrassing herself again, haggling over clothes. So annoying. Watching the hahaha replies pop up on her phone screen, I suddenly understood that in this family, my fussiness was just the perfect backdrop for them to maintain their generous image. In this life, I've decided to be the generous one. My sister had a rhinestone hair clip, a birthday gift she'd begged Mom for ages to buy her. My hair clip was deliberately crushed by my deskmate Lila, and she came back to me crying her eyes out. "Sis, Lila did it on purpose," she sobbed, gripping my wrist so tightly her nails dug into my skin. "You go talk to the teacher. You're so good at making your case." In my past life, I spent the entire lunch break in the teacher's office demanding an apology and a replacement hair clip exactly like the one my sister lost. Lila's mother shot me a sideways glance in the office and said, "You're quite the tough cookie for someone so young. You'll go far in life, that's for sure." The homeroom teacher sighed nearby. There's no need for things to get so tense between classmates. But the next day, I saw with my own eyes my sister pin the new hair clip onto Lila's hair, saying with a laugh, "My sister just loves to nitpick, but honestly, I've already let it go." Lila stroked the rhinestones on the hair clip and said, "Your sister is such a petty person, it's honestly terrifying." 5. Waves of laughter rippled through the classroom. My sister stood before me with tear-reddened eyes, holding the crushed rhinestone hairpin. "Lila is just awful, sis." I kept my eyes fixed on the variety show playing on TV. Ignoring her completely. "Sis," she nudged my knee sharply, Are you even listening to me? I hit pause. I'm listening. And then what happened? Her mouth hung open like a beached fish. Lila stepped on it on purpose. And then she said, my sister's voice caught. Just like all those other times when she waited for me to jump in, I gently placed the hair clip back on the coffee table. Want some juice? I just made it. My sister looked stunned, nervously twisting the hem of her clothes. She suddenly grabbed my wrist, her nails digging into the same spot again. Can't you just be like you used to be, like I used to be? I smiled, gently pulling my hand away, the crescent-shaped nail marks on my wrist slightly red. I really don't want to be a nitpicker. My sister's pupils suddenly constricted. In the living room, the audience on TV suddenly burst into laughter, drowning out her ragged breathing. My mom came in, laden with shopping bags. What's going on here, Mom? My sister instantly spun around. My hair clip. Oh, I see, my mom said, glancing at the hair clip on the coffee table, understanding dawning on her. Out with the old, in with the new. She patted my sister's shoulder. Don't be so petty, like your sister. I took a sip of orange juice. It was sweet with a hint of bitterness. No one else in this family would stand up for her. And my mom certainly wouldn't buy her another new hair clip. My sister stood still, her gaze shifting back and forth between my mom and me. Finally, she snatched up the broken hair clip and ran upstairs, her footsteps heavy on the stairs. The property management bill has been sitting on the dining table for a week now. My parents were waiting for me to notice that we'd been overcharged for the property fees. Finally, tonight, they couldn't hold back anymore. Vera, take a look, Mom said, pushing the bill towards me. The property management fee this month seems a bit off. I picked up some greens with my chopsticks. Maybe they adjusted the prices. My dad also cleared his throat. I heard Old Wine next door had the same issue last month. Really? I asked, looking down at my soup. Did Arthur go ask the property management? Silence fell over the dinner table. The next morning, I overheard them arguing in hushed tones by the entrance. Why don't you go ask what's wrong? My mom shoved the bill into my dad's hand. Just say you're inquiring. My dad recoiled as if burned. How can I ask that? A grown man like me can't be nitpicking over 300 yuan, can I? But we can't just pay 300 yuan for nothing, can we? My mom's voice suddenly rose, then dropped abruptly. Vera always handled this before. I don't know what's gotten into that kid lately. Their conversation abruptly stopped. As I came down the stairs, my dad was hastily shoving a bill back into the drawer. Morning, I said, smiling as I tied my scarf. It might rain today. Remember your umbrella. For a whole week, that bill became the ghost of our home. It showed up on the fridge door, on the shoe rack in the entryway, and even accidentally made its way into my work folder, courtesy of my mom. Each time, I put it right back on the dining table, untouched. The argument finally erupted on a weekend morning. Can't you just be a little more easygoing? My dad yelled before slamming the door on his way out. You're nickel-and-diming over 300 bucks all day long. My mom threw the cleaning rag into the sink and snapped. If we don't get that money back, forget about buying that fishing rod of yours. 5. In my past life, I spent 2 hours arguing with the property management office using payment records as proof, and finally got my 300 bucks back. That same night, I overheard my dad on the balcony making a call. Hey Stanley, count me in for fishing tomorrow. Just use the money my daughter fought to get back to buy a new rod. Laughter came from the other end of the line. That stubborn daughter of yours causing trouble again. Yeah, I wouldn't have bothered about such a small amount, but my daughter picks a fight over everything, my dad replied, his tone dripping with annoyance. In the evening, my dad came home looking dejected. Stanley's son-in-law helped him get the overcharged property fees back, he said, tossing his keys onto the shoe cabinet. Now he's flaunting his new fishing rod all over the place. My mom's chopping knife suddenly came down hard on the cutting board. I let out a cold laugh. Mom, Dad, our family values are all about being magnanimous. Let's not lose our dignity over this. Late at night, I heard the electronic beeping of a calculator coming from the master bedroom. My mother whispered, including this month, they've overcharged us 460 yuan in total. Father mumbled a vague response, and his snoring suddenly grew louder. In this lifetime, when news broke about the piano school's sudden closure, I was peeling an apple in the living room. The knife tip pierced the skin, sending tiny droplets of juice flying. Mom burst into the living room, phone in hand. Vera, your sister's piano class. I know, I said, peeling an apple in one long, continuous strip. The parent chat group is blowing up. In my previous life, I immediately contacted over 30 student parents to form a rights protection group. We blockaded the institution's entrance for 3 days and eventually got back 70% of the tuition fees. The night we got the refund, Dad was counting the money, wetting his fingers with spit. You've caused such a scandal, he grumbled. How is your sister ever going to make it in the music world now? My sister pouted, crumpled the refund slip, and tossed it into the trash. All my classmates are laughing at me for having a shrew for a sister. Sis, my sister came running downstairs barefoot. Ruby said her mom already got the refund. Good for her. I took a bite of my apple, juice dripping onto my pajama pants. Mom twisted the edge of her apron nervously. Vera, maybe you should go ask. Mom, didn't you always tell me not to be so petty? I said, wiping my hands. This time it's different. This time it's tens of thousands of yuan. I shook my head. Mom, you've changed. You're getting more and more calculative. My dad let out a heavy sigh. I'll go ask. He came back with his suit jacket still on and his tie askew, muttering. They said it's still going through the process. How did you ask them? My mom pressed anxiously as she hurried over. My dad avoided eye contact and mumbled. I just asked when they could sort it out. I scrolled through my phone and saw messages flooding the parents group. We did it. 70% refund received. Thanks to everyone for sticking together these past 3 days. In the previous life, this money allowed my sister to enroll in the final session of her piano masterclass, as she performed in a white gown at the art school audition. The judges nodded in approval. On the day the results were posted, her name was followed by the gilded word admitted. In this life, the piano teacher sent a message, Joy's mom, about the masterclass fee. My mom checked her bank balance and replied, I'm so sorry. Teacher, we can't afford it right now. During the arts exam, my sister's fingers suddenly froze on the keys like winter-stiffened butterflies when she reached the third measure. On the score report, that 5-point gap felt like an insurmountable barrier. She didn't make the cut. Dad folded the notice twice and tucked it into the very bottom of the drawer. No, that grand piano is the most expensive piece of furniture in the living room. My dad bought a new car the day he drove it home. The whole neighborhood could hear him honking the horn. I stood on the balcony, observing the subtle color variations in the car's paintwork that appeared at certain angles. Looks like it's the same as my last life. The 4S dealership sold my dad a refurbished car, passing it off as new. Last time, when I pointed out the problem, my dad slammed the car keys onto the coffee table and snapped. Bad luck. Are you trying to jinx me? Later. I spent an entire day at the 4S dealership with the inspection report, and finally got a new car in exchange. That night, he sent a voice message to his cycling group. My daughter just loves to nitpick. Honestly, that slight color difference doesn't affect the ride at all, Dad. This car is beautiful, I said, admiringly, as I touched the door handle in this life. He grinned from ear to ear, polishing the steering wheel until it gleamed. That weekend, my dad took us on a picnic in his new car. On the highway, the dashboard suddenly lit up with a cluster of red warning lights. Sweat beaded on Dad's forehead, but he tried to play it cool, saying, just a minor issue, new cars need breaking in, it's normal. When the engine let out its final groan, our whole family was stranded on a desolate provincial road. After checking the car, the tow truck driver just shook his head. The frame of this car has been welded before. You guys got seriously ripped off. Vera, Dad suddenly lowered his voice. In this situation, could we what? I asked, blinking my innocent big eyes. Dad's face flushed crimson. After a long, awkward moment, he said to me, Vera, what I mean is, could you go talk to the 4S shop? Mom and my sister were next to us, looking at their phones without saying a word. What are you talking about, Dad? I continued to play dumb. It's just, can we get a new car? This one's going to cost a lot to fix, Dad said, looking troubled. Dad, are you saying you want me to go argue with the dealership? I mimicked his tone from back then. Dad, it's so embarrassing to make a fuss over such a small thing. Let's be the bigger people. 5. After lying in the repair shop for a month, that top-spec used car was finally towed back. My dad stood in front of the garage, his face darker than the car's paint job. Kenneth, did you get your car fixed? Our neighbor Arthur poked his head over. I heard the transmission alone cost over 10 grand. My dad's mouth twitched. Pocket change. At dinner, my mom slammed her chopsticks and bowl down with a clatter. 38,000 for repairs. That's enough to buy a Wuling Hongguang. What do you know? My dad's chopsticks jabbed into his rice. This is top of the line refurbished. Maybe. My sister's spoon scraped the bottom of her bowl. My dad shot her a glare, and she immediately pulled her head back. Didn't your car club give you any advice? I picked up a piece of greens. My dad's Adam's apple bobbed twice. I knew his brothers in the car groups were probably forwarding his story around as a joke right now. The guy who was bragging about his great find last month is now the group's cautionary tale. In my past life, while I was up all night compiling evidence for my rights, he was sending voice messages in the group saying, my daughter just loves to overthink things. Honestly, as long as a car runs, that's all that matters. Vera, my mom suddenly put down her chopsticks. I remember that guy who does used car appraisals. Oh, you mean Manager Samuel? I blew on my soup. Didn't Dad say to avoid people who are so petty? I unfriended him ages ago. My dad's ears instantly turned as red as a car's taillights. Early the next morning, I was woken by a fierce argument. I don't care, my sister shrieked. You promised to take me to the music festival this week. No money. My dad waved his hand dismissively. All the cash went into car repairs. Your father would rather die than lose face. And we all suffer for it. My mom's scolding voice clashed with the sound of dishes. He just had to buy this piece of junk to show off. Enough, my dad roared. Every single one of you. When I pushed the door open, all three of them turned to look at me. 6 pairs of eyes turned to me in unison, that look all too familiar. They thought it was time for the ever-reliable nitpicker to step in and clean up the mess. Morning, I said with a smile as I tied my scarf. Lovely weather today. Just as I was about to head out, my dad stopped me. Vera, is there really no way to fix this car? I tilted my head, thinking, yeah, we could do what Declan's family did, hang a banner outside the dealership to protest. Seeing his expectant face, I added, but Dad's such a generous person, he'd never do something like that, right? My mom's hand gripped her apron tightly. You used to, Mom, I gently interrupted her. Didn't you always say that girls should be gentle and magnanimous? My sister suddenly threw her backpack on the ground. You've changed. You could have just what? I said calmly, meeting her gaze. I'm only doing what you all asked, being the bigger person. Is that so wrong? 3 faces froze at once. They finally realized the fool who'd always fought their battles would never fall for it again. The real reckoning isn't over yet. 7 days after Grandpa's funeral, a man in a worn-out suit rang our doorbell. He had a tear mole at the corner of his eye, identical to Grandpa's, and clutched a yellowed paternity test in his hand. By law, I have the right to inherit this house. My old man never fulfilled his parental duties when he was alive, so this house should be mine. He sat in my living room, saying each word deliberately, then nervously adjusted his glasses. In my past life, I pulled 3 all-nighters studying inheritance law to argue my case, and in the end, I kept the house. That day, my dad patted my shoulder and said, my daughter is still the most useful. Turning to her sister, she said, don't be like your older sister. If a girl is too strong, who would dare to marry her later? Please come in. This time, I smiled and stepped aside. Dad, we have guests. My dad came out of his study and listened to the whole story. Nonsense. A vein throbbed on his forehead. How could Dad possibly? The paternity test was done in 2013, the man said calmly, unfolding the documents. The crisp rustle of the paper made my mom tremble. I gently pressed her veined hand and said, Mom, blood is thicker than water. You need to be more understanding. That's what my mom told me in my previous life. After I'd secured the property, my sister hid around the corner of the staircase, her nails digging deep into the handrail. In her past life, she'd tearfully accused me of being heartless, claiming my illegitimate uncle was pitiful, yet I was still trying to strip him of his last hope. Now her lips were moving, but no sound came out. Either we go through legal channels, the man said, glancing at the crystal chandelier, or you move out. My dad suddenly grabbed my arm. Vera, didn't you study law? That's right. I opened the civil code, but illegitimate children do have equal inheritance rights. My fingers stopped on the page I'd dog-eared before. Don't worry, Dad, the litigation period will be at least 2 years. Just as my dad let out a sigh of relief, the man suddenly smiled. What a coincidence. I know a lawyer friend. He pulled out his phone. He said, he can speed up the process. I remained silent, watching the family of 3 squirming like ants on a hot griddle. Vera, my mom's nails dug into my arm. Say something. 3 pairs of eyes burned into me, just like countless times before, waiting for me to charge into battle. If we won, they'd say, why bother making a fuss? If we lost, they'd say, it's all because you had to be so stubborn. My sister rushed over and tugged at my sleeve. Sis, you're going to live in this house too? 5. What about you guys? I tilted my head. Aren't you going to live together? My dad straightened his collar. I'm a grown man. My mom looked down, adjusting her apron. I don't really understand these things. My sister twisted the hem of her skirt. Mom and Dad said we should be the bigger person, then let Uncle have it, I said with a smile, looking at the man. He seems to really need this house. On the day my illegitimate uncle came to claim the house, he wore an expression of utter disbelief. His hands trembled as he touched the leather sofa, as if he never expected such generosity. As the movers carried out the TV cabinet, my father suddenly knelt in the middle of the empty living room. But this is a school district property for a top-tier school. His tears splattered onto the wooden floor. I walked past dragging my suitcase, its wheels rolling over his shadow. Didn't you say a good attitude matters more than a good school, little sister? My mother suddenly lunged at the illegitimate uncle. You beast, you bastard, give my house back. Her nails left 3 scratches on his suit. Mom, I grabbed her flailing arm. Making such a scene is beneath your dignity. My sister huddled in the corner, her fingers unconsciously pressing against imaginary piano keys. The bastard uncle graciously allowed her to take the piano, but now the massive instrument has to be temporarily stored in the moving company's warehouse. Our rented old house simply doesn't have the space for it. As the last piece of furniture was carried out the door, my father suddenly grabbed my wrist. Are you happy now? He rasped, his voice hoarse, watching this family fall apart. I gently pried open his fingers, mimicking the gentle expression he had when he said those words years ago. Dad, isn't that what you taught me? Those who suffer losses are the most blessed. Later, after graduating from college, I moved out and rented my own place. At the law firm, I specialize in handling consumer rights cases. My attention to detail has helped many clients secure the compensation they rightfully deserve. Due to outstanding performance, I quickly became a partner at the law firm. The family members who once despised my nitpicking have now become the very people they hated. My father's magnifying glass has become the property management's worst nightmare. Every day, he pores over the utility bills, slamming the table over even a 0.5 yuan discrepancy in shared electricity fees. Last week, the security guard whispered to me that he saw him checking the water meter with a flashlight in the dead of night, making sure not to overcharge even a single cent. My mom, who's always preaching that it's a blessing to suffer a loss, has now become the most dreaded customer for the vendors at the vegetable market. She'll haggle for half an hour over a wilted cabbage, shouting honesty is the best policy in business loud enough for the whole street to hear. Someone spotted her at the supermarket entrance, laughing and crying over a receipt that overcharged her by 2 cents, muttering, if only Vera were here. My sister, once known for her generosity, was fired from her bubble tea shop job for insisting on being paid for 5 minutes of overtime. Her so-called best friends all blocked her because she would split the bill down to the last leaf of lettuce during their Dutch treat meals. Her piano, which no longer fit in her tiny rented apartment, was eventually sold to a scrap dealer for 300 yuan. Sunlight streamed through the blinds, casting neat bands of light across my desk. The latest banner we received, embroidered with the words serving the people, upholding rights in golden thread, is gleaming brightly. Story 2. I'm the last remaining phoenix egg after 10,000 years of incubation, yet I hatched into a mere golden pheasant. My despairing clan made the best of it. They married me off to the dragon clan with great fanfare. On the wedding night, I trembled too much to even lift my head, terrified that the dragon prince might notice something amiss and devour me in one gulp. My lady, are you truly a phoenix? I knew this deception couldn't last forever, when suddenly I heard him drop to his knees with a thud. Truth be told, I'm actually a serpent. As I gazed at that delicate, enchanting little face before me, my stomach betrayed me with an audible growl. My birth was heralded by radiant sunbeams and auspicious purple mists filling the eastern sky. My parents were beside themselves with joy, summoning friends and neighbors, eager for all living creatures to witness my spectacular arrival, for I was the last remaining egg of the phoenix lineage. Besides, my parents were already the cream of the crop among phoenixes, so naturally they drew more attention. Not that the phoenix clan was cursed by heaven with declining fertility, it's just that these millennia-long egg hatching periods are truly excruciating. Add to that technological advancements and the rise of new ideologies among the divine races. The Phoenix clan embraced the philosophy of fewer but finer offspring, carefree without marriage or children. Thus I became the sole heir of this Phoenix lineage. But when relatives from neighboring villages saw my true form amidst the golden radiance, the once joyous atmosphere turned deathly silent in an instant. The Phoenix elder chuckled awkwardly and broke the ice with a jest. Well, this child's quite the colorful little thing, haha. My father face-bombed with a sigh while my mother looked ready to stuff me back into the egg for a do-over. Something must have gone wrong in the process. How could a phoenix egg hatch into this scrawny half-feathered chick? My mother started retracing our family history, from the dawn of creation to those damn Japs poisoning our seas. Completely clueless, we had to accept our fate, in the blink of an eye. I went from being the golden child everyone adored to becoming the laughingstock of the Phoenix clan. Every time my kin saw my grotesque form, they'd crack a joke or two. Only my parents still believed I was merely unsightly, not deformed. They held on to hope that one day I'd rise from the ashes and transform into a true phoenix. My mother even told me the story of the ugly duckling to encourage me not to give up. I took it to heart and asked, "But Mom, the ugly duckling was born from a swan. So the ducks thought she was ugly. Since I'm your own child, why do they still think I'm hideous?" My mother frowned, though she knew I was right. The more she thought about it, the angrier she became. Just spat out "go to hell" before storming off to confront my father. Because of my awkward true form, I was supposed to be an auspicious celestial beast under immortal Lord Lior's tutelage. The elders feared I'd tarnish the Phoenix clan's reputation. So the matter was dropped. Nearly a millennium later, I remained nothing but a golden pheasant, plumed and ravenous, yet otherwise unchanged. Fortunately, immortal Lord Lior seemed quite fond of me, though I never formally became his disciple. He would always bring me celestial delicacies, watching me eat with a smile before gently wiping my lips. Immortal Lord, how I wish you were truly my master. Lior lived up to his name. A gentleman as pure as the autumn breeze and bright as the moon. Unlike those celestial beings and spirits who often mocked me, even though I was just an ordinary golden pheasant, he'd always look at me with a gentle smile. "Iris, everyone has their own destiny. Some things simply aren't meant to be forced. In this world, there are things we should do, and things we shouldn't." Only half understanding, I tugged at Lior's sleeve. "Immortal Lord, then what things are truly worth fighting for?" Leor gazed at me thoughtfully, giving my head a comforting pat. Iris, you're still too young, some things will become clear when you're older, but before I could fully comprehend immortal Leor's words, my parents finally resigned themselves to fate. Without even consulting me, they betrothed me to the Dragon Prince. I absolutely refused, throwing such a tantrum you'd think I was trying to spin myself into a top. Mother, how could you bear to send your precious little princess somewhere she'll go hungry and cold? My mother gently tapped my forehead with a smile that could only be described as benign. Iris dear, it's not that I don't want to, but you eat us out of house and home. I lowered my head, mumbling to myself, so what if I ate the elixir refined by the Western elders for 1,000 years along with the alchemy furnace? I'm just a kid. Was it really worth getting so mad? My mother gave me a humorless smile. Just the furnace. Then you devoured the sacred peach tree older than you, the neighborhood dog. I just wanted to cultivate myself and strive for that phoenix level glow up. Mom, I just wanted to fast track my way to phoenix status. Okay, then explain the Kuan fish from the northern sea. If immortal Leor hadn't caught you in time, you'd have devoured all its fins for shark fin soup. I frowned, fully aware of my extensive rock sheet. If this reckoning continues, I'll probably be shipped off to the Dragon Clan by tonight to meet my doom. When honeyed words fail, playing the victim is all that's left. Having made up my mind, I clutched Mother's sleeve and blinked my doe eyes. But those vicious dragons are terrifying. They'd surely torment me. It said the phoenixes and dragons share an ancient blood feud. For centuries, even accidental eye contact would make them wish to gouge their own eyes out in protest. If a mere golden pheasant like me were to marry into their clan, those vicious dragons would pluck me bare, clip my claws, and hang me up for their amusement. Seeing me in this wretched state, Mother let out a long sigh, took my hand, and said with grave concern, Iris, do you wish to die with glory, or live in disgrace? I'll take disgrace. To hesitate even a second would be an insult to life itself. My mother visibly staggered, probably restraining herself from slapping me dead only because I was her own flesh and blood. In that case, you'll have to marry into their family. I blinked at her, waiting to hear what tall tale she'd spin next. Our clans have been sworn enemies for generations. This marriage alliance was approved by both councils of elders. If you refuse, it'll inevitably plunge us back into bloody warfare. Seeing my hesitation, my mother grabbed my hand firmly. Think about it. If you were the dragon prince who got jilted at the altar, publicly humiliated on what should have been your happiest day, who'd you want to skin alive and grind to dust? Who else but this poor fool right here? Only then did I finally grasp the true meaning behind immortal Lord Leor's words. My lips trembled before I could do nothing but nod meekly. Very well, I'll marry you. Dragons and phoenixes have been sworn enemies for generations. Who would have thought they'd ever reconcile, let alone unite through marriage? Naturally, all sorts of shady characters from every corner of the realm came to gawk at the spectacle. The wedding day arrived. Everyone in the clan was overjoyed, except me. They managed to ship off the family disgrace while subtly humiliating their rivals in one fell swoop. How is this any different from literally shitting on the dragon clan's heads? The oblivious dragon clansmen still had to force smiles and say thank you. Talk about the ultimate power trip. To celebrate this momentous occasion, the Phoenix clan presented all manner of priceless treasures as my dowry. I kept Mother's teachings close to heart, striving to maintain my human form, terrified that a single misstep might reveal my chicken feet, inviting the dragons to skin me alive. Throughout the ceremony, I bluffed with all my might. I held my head high with an air of supreme arrogance, freaking out inside. I only did this because my mom said men are like dogs. The more unattainable and aloof you are, the harder they'll simp for you. Just as expected, the dragon prince standing beside me cuts a dashing figure, every inch the handsome noble, yet I could see his hands trembling uncontrollably beneath those flowing sleeves. Tremble, mortal man, overwhelmed by my sheer presence, aren't you? The elders of both clans sat together in the grand hall, their faces beaming with rare delight. Iris is the sole daughter our Phoenix clan nurtured for millennia. If your dragonkin dare mistreat her, our entire clan will not let this stand. The dragon elder smiled faintly, stroking his silver-streaked beard. Our Drake is the dragon crown prince, a true gentleman. Your clan should count yourselves blessed to marry into our lineage. The elders from both clans were on the verge of another argument. At this critical moment, I stepped forward and bellowed, it's my wedding day, save your bickering. I've got a honeymoon to attend to, truth be told. I just feared prolonged exposure would drain my magic and reveal my true form, yet it seemed everyone had misunderstood the situation, especially the dragon prince standing beside me. The tips of his ears flushed pink as he gazed at me with bashful longing. It was strangely alluring. Finally made it to the wedding chamber after all that waiting. My meager magical powers were stretched to their limits. Even my hands kept shifting between delicate jade-like fingers and chicken claws. My heart skipped a beat. Seizing the moment of distraction, I quickly hid the chicken claw in my wide sleeve. My heart was pounding so hard it nearly leapt out of my throat. My trembling fingers brushed against something soft. Then I remembered that this was the silk pouch my mother had given me before I left. Iris, open this pouch in dire need. It shall keep you safe tonight. The thought warmed my heart. She's tough on the outside but soft inside. What parent doesn't love their child? With a smile, I untied the silk pouch, and then, threw the silk pouch on the ground, even stomped on it twice for good measure. Remember to turn off the lights. Let's make this official. Holy crap, are you freaking kidding me? So we've got yesterday's leftovers, and now you're eyeing me as drinking snacks. Just as I was fuming yet trembling with fear, a voice suddenly cut through. My lady, are you truly a phoenix? Damn it. He must have seen my chicken feet. I knew the truth would come out eventually, and was ready to face the consequences head-on, but then he stepped closer, his trembling hands lifting my bridal veil. I blinked up at him with the resignation of one facing execution. What are you trying to do?" To everyone's surprise, he was so overwhelmed that he dropped to his knees. His gaze at me was a mix of despair and silent reproach. Actually, I'm a serpent. How intriguing. I knew there had to be something fishy about these two feuding clans suddenly arranging a marriage. Turns out they're just scheming against each other, a golden pheasant marrying a serpent. Not even fairy tales would come up with this nonsense. Wait, this is mythology we're talking about, and I'm a golden pheasant. Darling, we're natural-born bug exterminators. Divine justice does exist after all. Feeling emboldened, I cleared my throat and plopped onto the bed like some pampered lord. Look up, let me get a proper look at you. The figure on the ground stirred, lifting their heads slowly to gaze at me with pitiful eyes, a porcelain-pale face, red-rimmed eyes, and sleeves clutched tightly in trembling hands. What a delectable sight. As I took in that delicate, heart-fluttering face before me, my stomach growled in response. The next instant, delicate little pastries materialized before me. You can have anything you want, except me. Perhaps it was instinct. Though those delicacies did look mouth-watering, yet my eyes remained fixed, utterly transfixed on him alone, that delicate, pale neck with an Adam's apple bobbing nervously. What hue would it turn if I were to nip it gently? Though the thought crossed my mind, I knew better than to act on it. Seeing the situation firmly in my control, I dropped all pretense and revealed my true form, talon-like fingers clamped around his delicate neck. So you're truly the Dragon Prince? He nodded faintly with closed eyes, his lashes casting soft shadows beneath them. Yeah. Maybe my parents drank some nuclear wastewater when conceiving me, perhaps out of shared suffering. Seeing him like this tugged at my heartstrings too. In that case, I couldn't very well actually devour him alive. Don't worry, I'd never pick on someone weaker. He stared fixedly at my colorful plumage, hesitating for a long while before finally drawling. I thought all phoenixes were supposed to be crimson red. Why are you multicolored? I'm no fool, when you're in the dragon's lair. Even a worm should tread carefully. Can't afford to blow my cover. Ahem. And here I thought you were the Dragon Prince. Don't you know in nature, the more vibrant the creature, the deadlier it is. My flawless reasoning left Drake utterly bamboozled. He was eating right out of my talons. Well, as the saying goes, a loss may turn out to be a gain. Who'd have thought that after leaving the phoenix nest, I'd rise to rule even among insects in the dragon's den? Exhausted from the day and with my worries lifted, I slept like a log that night. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself at the northern celestial mountain, an endless banquet table stretched before me, laden with dazzling treasures beyond imagination. My mouth watered instantly, and I eagerly dug in. The plate held plump, rosy-hued peaches, their delicate floral fragrance still lingering when held. What an intoxicating aroma! I leaned in for a gentle sniff, the fuzzy down tickling my nose in the most delightful way. Stingy immortals won't let me eat. Well, I'll eat anyway, and gorge myself at that. Just as I opened my mouth to take a bite, the celestial peach suddenly levitated into the air. Don't you dare run away. I lunged forward and clamped the peach tightly in my grasp, fearing it might escape again. I sank my teeth into it, only to hear a muffled groan. The peach in my hand dissolved into a wisp of smoke. I woke to find myself staring at a pale, slender neck. Faint red marks still lingered there, unmistakably my handiwork. Drake clutched the sheets, his ink-dark eyes pinning me in place. So you really did want to devour me after all. My mind went blank with panic. The luscious, oversized peach from my dream turned out to be Drake. Gotta admit, it smells amazing. He was about to slip through the gap and escape. I knew something was wrong. If he runs out screaming that I tried to eat him, will I even live to see tomorrow? In desperation, I grabbed his wrist, flipped him over, pinned him beneath me, and covered his mouth. Drake, listen to me. It was all just a misunderstanding. He clearly didn't believe me. Frustrated, I slammed my palm onto the bed. I'd meant to calm him down, but the damn bed turned out to be flimsier than cardboard. Just a light tap, and it snapped clean in two, leaving Drake and me staring at each other in disbelief, with an awkward chuckle. I brushed the debris from his hair. You might not believe me, but I swear it was an accident. Early the next morning, word got around that Drake and I had broken the bed from being too vigorous. To make matters worse, when we went to pay respects to his parents, they spotted the love bites on Drake's neck. There was no way to talk our way out of this one. I may be hungry, but I'm not that desperate to eat anything. Drake, I know you youngsters are full of energy, but you should still know your limits. Drake's mother carried herself with grace, but her words made me blush with embarrassment. My mother always told me since childhood that dragonkin are inherently savage and brutish. I expected this morning's greetings to be full of harassment and insults from the dragon clan, just like in those historical fantasy novels. To my surprise, they didn't torment me at all. Instead, they spoke gently and treated me like family. It's actually kind of unsettling. But I'm responsible for my own actions. I can't let Drake take the blame for me. Mom, actually I was the one who accidentally broke the bed last night. Don't blame Drake. It's all my fault for insisting on lying on top of him. Ahem. Drake turned pale with shock and immediately clapped a hand over my honest mouth. Father, mother, I just remembered. There's been a surge of evil spirits in the North Sea lately, causing great suffering. We were just about to investigate, so we won't trouble you any further. Before I could say another word, Drake hastily dragged me outside. Now I get it. So Drake married me just to exploit me for his damn KPIs. When we reached the North Sea, to my utter shock, we ran into that old nemesis. Of course, it's my arch nemesis, the golden-winged rock, yet inexplicably, his entire body was now wreathed in a thin veil of dark energy. From afar, I could see the bastard flapping his sky-obscuring wings, churning up tidal waves miles high. He took perverse delight in reducing mere mortals to whales of despair. Just like back then, utterly detestable. I wear my heart on my sleeve, always have, always will. Drake's neither blind nor deaf. He let out an amused sigh as I huffed like a bull entering the arena. Iris, is there some bad blood between you two? I pursed my lips. That's selfish. Twisted Miser was bad enough 3,000 years ago, now he's downright insufferable. In that case, shall I go deal with him for you? My eyes widened in disbelief at what I'd just heard. A mere insect trying to take on a rock. My expression must have been truly cutting, because Drake gave an awkward chuckle. Though my true form is indeed a serpent, years of honing my skills in the dragon's abyss have granted me no small measure of power. Oh right. I suddenly remembered what my mother told me long ago. Men cherish their pride above all, especially in front of the women they love. Pondering this, I watched his confident demeanor and began, Drake, do you really like me that much? He clearly wasn't expecting that question, froze for a second. You remember now? I nodded and said, oh right, my mother told me this before. All males in nature are like this. Wait, how did you know what my mom said to me? For some reason. Though Drake's expression didn't change after my words, I could feel his whole being crumbling inside. TCH, men will be men, always so desperate to save face. Don't know why. Learning that Drake had a bit of a crush on me sparked an unusual flutter of delight in my heart. I gave him a pat on the shoulder and flashed him a thumbs up. Don't worry, I'll make sure to save face for you. A man's pride is sacred. With that, I turned and headed straight for the legendary Garuda. I flew right up to that stinking rock's face, flashing a disarmingly sinister smile. Listen here, you damned Leviathan, you'd better back off while I'm still feeling generous. That's right, this colossal bird before me was the very same giant fish whose fins I nearly sliced off 3 millennia ago. After all these centuries, the bastard still hasn't kicked his habit of bullying the weak. Recognizing me, the rock's expression darkened instantly as it shielded itself with its massive wings. You again. I haven't provoked you this time. What? Can't I right wrongs when I see them? 3 millennia ago you took pleasure in tormenting young pythons, and now you're toying with these mortals. The rock snorted contemptuously. Iris, we're still kin after all. I've let bygones be bygones. Since ancient times, dragons and phoenixes have been rivals. Have you really started siding with the dragon clan the very day you married into them? True. Dragons and phoenixes are enemies. But we phoenixes would never stoop to underhanded tricks or bullying the weak. You're just a paranoid coward. Stop dragging our noble lineage into your schemes. The rock's face darkened at being publicly humiliated. Iris, back then, if not for my master's mercy, did you really think a mere golden pheasant like you could best me? Very well, let me show you the chasm between us. As expected, when losing the argument they immediately resorted to dredging up old dirt. The rock spread its massive wings, unleashing a gale-force wind that blasted toward me. Caught off guard, I was sent flying backward by the sheer force. When I finally regained my footing, I felt blood surging upward with a metallic taste filling my mouth. How remarkable you've become in such short time. Who would have thought he'd reach this level of power in mere millennia? In a direct confrontation, I can't guarantee I'd walk away unscathed. Not to mention, I gazed at the thickening dark aura above his head, an inexplicable dread creeping into my heart. The rock clearly had no intention of letting me off. This was about settling old scores. He loomed over me, eyes blazing with fury. You call me insane. Let me ask you this, as the Phoenix clan's sole heir, ever wonder why the dragons would you? Did you truly believe your gaudy plumage charmed the world? What a brainless bird. Classic nemesis move, hitting right where it hurts most. Should have trained harder back then. Now I'm getting pummeled by this damn rock, and I just had to shoot my mouth off in front of Drake. God, this is infuriating. So you dared bite my wings back then. Now witness their true power. The rock spread its massive wings, plunging my world into sudden darkness. Just as I braced to be sent flying, an unseen force surged beneath me, lifting me with steady grace. A dragon's roar shook the heavens. To my astonishment, a black dragon carried me steadily without a single scratch. I once thought the rock's wingspan blotted out the sun, yet this black dragon's ascent dwarfed even that. Whoa. By comparison, the mighty rock appeared almost adorably petite. The sea's mist rose skyward as the rock spread its wings. Towering waves came crashing down upon the mighty rock. In an instant, the majestic bird was reduced to a drenched, pitiful mess. Its wings could no longer command the winds. I had the best seat in the house for the whole spectacle, though I feared I might slip and fall at any moment. That absolutely deserves a standing ovation. Rock, don't push your luck. The black dragon's golden pupils fixed unblinkingly on the rock, its courteous gaze carrying implicit authority. When it comes to overbearing behavior, who could outdo your dragon clan? Though Deping appeared utterly disheveled, the dark aura in his eyes grew even more intense, with unease creeping over me. I slowly rose from Drake and locked eyes with Deping. Before I could speak, the triumphant smirk on Deping's face abruptly froze. An invisible force seemed to violently slam him to his knees. Then, clutching his chest, he suddenly coughed up a mouthful of blood. Wretched beast, I've indulged you far too much. Hearing that voice, my heart leaped with joy. Turning around, I saw the white-robed immortal Lord Lior. Immortal Lord, it really is you. I swiftly dismounted from Drake and bounded over to Lior's side in a few quick steps. After all, I hadn't seen him since my marriage was arranged, and now seeing him again, Lord Lior remains as dazzlingly handsome as ever. Lior produced a peach of immortality from his sleeve and placed it in my palm, his gaze briefly lingering on the rock nearby as his brows furrowed slightly. Nobody laid a finger on you. Who are you trying to impress with this bloody performance? His eyes flickered toward Drake standing nearby before giving me a knowing smile. My apologies for being so preoccupied lately. I miss celebrating your joyous occasion. He raised his hand with natural ease, but before he could stroke my fur, Drake intercepted the gesture. Immortal Lord, you needn't stand on ceremony with your busy schedule. Our meeting here must be fate's design. Lior's gaze darted between me and Drake before finally withdrawing his hand. My apologies, this golden-winged rock is my disciple. The trouble caused is entirely due to my inadequate guidance. What? That damn bird is actually Lior's disciple. What makes him qualified? Stop looking down on me. At least my true form is a Kuan, while you're just a chicken dreaming of becoming an immortal lord's disciple. The bird's words were harsh, but there's truth beneath the rudeness. Even if I had followed immortal Lord Lior back then, I'd probably still be some obscure amateur today. Silence, you wretched beast. These two are my disciples, and I shall deal with their punishment myself. For today's incident, I must first apologize to you both. Iris, I've recently acquired some rare treasures. You're welcome to visit whenever you're free. Truly worthy of immortal Lord Lior. Such fair judgment in rewards and punishments. I nodded with a smile, feeling utterly pleased. After immortal Lord Lior departed with the rock, the sea returned to its tranquil state. I couldn't bring myself to laugh. 9. You lied to me. You're clearly a dragon, not some measly worm. Though I said this, the great rock's words kept echoing in my mind. 1,000 years ago, I could still pummel him with sheer strength, but now, I'm just a golden pheasant with brute strength and nothing more. Sensing my foul mood, Drake gave a helpless chuckle and said quietly, I've been a worm since millennia ago. You simply forgot. Have we met before? At this point, Drake showed rare signs of displeasure. You remember that Kuan fish transforming into a pin bird in perfect detail, yet you've forgotten me. How utterly heartbreaking. He didn't seem to be spinning tall tales. I thoroughly examined him from every angle with my arm around his shoulders, but truly couldn't recall the slightest memory. Had I ever seen such beauty before, it would surely be unforgettable. So why did you clash with Deping back then? Because he bullied kids, held their heads underwater and mocked them as short, ugly losers. Drake turned pale, stammering, Is there any chance that I'm actually the python you saved back then? I took another long, hard look at the man before me. No matter what, I just couldn't believe it. This elegant, jade-faced Drake standing before me was actually that pathetic serpent I casually saved 3 millennia ago. Did you get plastic surgery? Or does nuclear wastewater have mutation superpowers now? Drake's eyes welled up as he covered his face, tilting his head at a dramatic 45-degree angle toward the sky. Dragons glow up with age. Got a problem with that. Like father, like son, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. For millennia, I thought I was the only anomaly, until I discovered Drake shared the same fate, from birth. He was just a pitch-black serpent. His unnatural appearance made him the constant target of his siblings' bullying, yet he was far more fortunate than I. Every 1,000 years, it undergoes a metamorphosis, from worm to snake, then python, anaconda, drake, until finally becoming a dragon, through relentless cultivation. Though his awakening came late, his mastery surpassed all his brethren. If you recognized me, why didn't you say anything on our wedding day? Drake took my hand and pressed a gentle kiss to it. I've been dropping you hints for ages, yet you'd completely forgotten me. Naturally, I wanted to tease you a little, and if we're talking about deception, shouldn't you be the one apologizing to me? I frowned, finding myself at a complete loss for words. I'm clearly just an ordinary pheasant, yet I lied to him that I was a magnificent phoenix. That was truly wrong of me. I'm sorry, I was just afraid you might eat me. At the mention of food, Drake seemed to recall something again. His ears turning pink once more. We were standing extremely close to each other. For some reason, gazing at his pink-tinted earlobe reminded me of a ripe honey peach. Before I knew it, my teeth had grazed his skin. A hand suddenly clamped around my wrist, forcing me to meet those obsidian dark eyes. Iris, are you doing this on purpose? How dare you tease me again and again? As he spoke, he playfully nipped at my fingertips as if to punish me. It didn't hurt much, just a tingling, electrifying sensation. You were like this before, and now again. How can I keep pretending to be a gentleman? And just like that, that electric thrill shot from my fingertips straight to my heart. I don't know why my heart is racing like this. After much deliberation, I've come to a conclusion. It must be jealousy. My heart's pounding wildly with envy. I stared fixedly at him, my disheveled reflection glaring back from his eyes. That small part of me kept growing larger, more undeniable. I raised my hand to stop Drake's approaching lips. Drake, teach me. I want to get stronger too. The warmth in Drake's eyes dimmed slightly as his grip on my hand tightened. In the end, I agreed to it. To transform from a pheasant into a phoenix, Drake began giving me special training, though for some reason, these training sessions always seem to end up in bed. Drake, are you sure this is how you cultivate power? I'm not doubting him, but I genuinely don't see the point of clinging to him like a sloth. Naturally, this is testing your endurance, Drake said while bringing the jade ointment to my lips. See how you're clinging to me with all your might. The longer you hold on, the more it proves your stamina. Come to think of it, he does have a point. I tightened my embrace a little more, but honestly, the special training feels surprisingly pleasant. I could keep this up for 1,000 years without issue. No wonder Drake's cultivation progressed so quickly. Oh right, are you having trouble maintaining your transformed state? I nodded, feeling even more admiration for him. My mother said it's because my foundation is unstable and my cultivation too shallow. That's why this keeps happening. Need a hand with that. Somehow, Drake, this perfectly presentable fellow, carried an inexplicable air of cunning about him. You can actually help, absolutely. Just let me channel some chi into you. It'll stabilize your foundation. Can you believe such good fortune exists in this world? I grabbed his collar and pulled him toward me. What are we waiting for? Let's go now. My response clearly pleased him, and his smile took on a tender warmth. Slender fingers gently tilted my chin, their voice laced with honeyed persuasion. You said it yourself. No takebacks. As cool lips pressed against mine, a refreshing spiritual energy flowed into my mouth. It coursed through every limb, more revitalizing than the rarest celestial balm. This feels amazing. Just as my carefree mother pushed the door open, she caught me pinning Drake down, taking whatever I wanted from him. There was Drake, being forcibly kissed beneath me, her porcelain face flushed crimson as I pinned her struggling hands behind her back against the headboard. That's my mother for you. Faced with this scene, she calmly raised a hand to stop the indignant clansman charging outside. Chief, what's wrong? Is that damned dragon harassing Iris again? Don't be afraid, we're gonna wreck this place today. We'll get justice for Iris. Mom, what brings you here? My mother glanced at Drake, his eyes red-rimmed and breathing heavily, then at my flushed, thoroughly satisfied face. Her lips trembled for a long moment, utterly incapable of voicing the thought. I thought you were being hurt. After much deliberation, he reluctantly managed to utter, Iris, show some restraint. She'd heard about the bed being destroyed on their wedding night and actually stormed into the elder's chamber to make a scene, cursing those blind and wicked old fools for everything. Out of sheer spite, they married off their pampered little princess to an abusive dragon, so they gathered a flock of phoenix men and women, making a raucous scene as they stormed the dragon palace, swearing to get justice for me. Though to be honest, life in the Phoenix clan wasn't exactly rosy for me either. But phoenixes always stick to their protect our own principle. Bullying among themselves is fair game, but if outsiders dare to bully us, they're picking a fight with the entire clan, especially the dragon clan. That's an unforgivable offense. Though my mother keeps claiming she's here to demand justice for me, why do I see nothing but bloodthirsty excitement in these clansmen's eyes? I can't shake the feeling that these people are just using me as an excuse to beat up some dragons. With that thought, I stepped forward and shielded Drake behind me. Mom, it's all a misunderstanding. Drake was actually teaching me how to get stronger. You wouldn't believe it, but even that stinky Cohen is now a disciple under immortal Lord Leor. My mother snorted coldly. Teaching you in bed, was he? I nodded earnestly while Drake lowered his head bashfully. That very movement exposed the evidence of my crime, the mark I'd left on his neck earlier. My mother nearly had a stroke from secondhand embarrassment. This whole misunderstanding unexpectedly brought phoenixes and dragons closer together, yet Drake refused to teach me how to grow stronger. No matter what I said, though usually warm and sunny toward me, he'd become a completely different person whenever this topic came up. Neither threats nor bribes worked. He remained utterly unmoved. Just stay by my side. Why seek strength, planning to find that immortal Leor? I couldn't fathom why he was so angry, and it left me rather annoyed too. In my irritation, I went straight to seek out immortal Leor. Drake tried to stop me, but I was determined to go, especially since his place always had endless delicious treats. To my surprise, immortal Leor didn't seem the least bit bothered by my sudden visit. He casually laid out a lavish feast before me as if it were nothing. Immortal Lord, I don't understand. Why was I born a golden pheasant, originally? Drake was just a serpent while I remained a pheasant. We were a decent match, but now he's become a true dragon prince, while I'm still just me. Immortal Lord Leor placed the celestial nectar before me. I took a sip, though whether it was my foul mood or the drink itself, it tasted strangely bitter. Some things simply aren't meant to be forced from birth. That tired old line again. I could feel calluses forming in my ears. Iris, you must understand, regrets are part of every human existence. Yours and mine included. Of course I knew Leor was just trying to comfort me. He's an exalted immortal with disciples at his command, not some mediocre nobody like me. This world was never meant to fulfill our every desire. Leor smiled faintly and drained the jade dew in his hand. Do you know I should have ascended long ago? It was only due to misfortune and the schemes of villains that I drew the heavenly lightning. At that time, I was near the North Sea. Yet not a single dragon came to my aid. They watched as my entire family burned alive. Veins faintly pulsed at his temples, his eyes brimming with resentment. I had planned to kill the dragon prince, to make them taste the agony of losing kin. Yet fate intervened. You uncovered my scheme. The overwhelming flood of information made even Leor seem strangely unfamiliar, and now I could see dark energy coiling between his brows. Exactly like what I'd seen on the golden-winged rock before. I knew then, he'd fallen to demonic corruption. I'd assumed the rock was merely bullying the weak, but this was clearly a premeditated assassination all along. Iris, I do have feelings for you, but love cannot outweigh deep-seated hatred. My vision began to blur, and though I knew something was wrong, my body felt limp and unresponsive. Immortal Lord Leor remained as composed as a gentle breeze under the moonlight, drawing me into a light embrace. You once asked me what is worth fighting for. Do you understand now? I blinked and spoke up. Leor, was it also you who egged my mother on when she came storming in that day? Leor remained silent, which amounted to an admission. It suddenly dawned on me. If only she hadn't happened to see me getting close with Drake. It seems the phoenixes and dragons are destined for war, and he's perfectly positioned to reap the benefits and achieve his goals. Pity I'm the wild card in all this. So now you want to kill me. Kill me and frame the dragons, just the spark needed to reignite their ancient feud. Maybe he could even play the righteous hero while serving his own interests. So from start to finish, he was just using me all along. Iris, I knew I'd find you here. Drake rushed over, his eyes flickering with unease as he took in my condition. What's wrong with you? He looked like he'd rushed all the way here, beads of sweat still glistening on his forehead. Not just me, even Leor never expected Drake would come straight here. I never realized you cared about her this much. As Leor spoke, he raised his hand and locked his grip around my throat. Do you have any idea how it felt when your dragonkin stood by and watched as my loved ones burned alive before my eyes? The pressure on my throat tightened, my coughing only making Drake more agitated. Since my ascension, every midnight brings their tormented wails and furious howls echoing in my ears. Your birth was the dragonkind's curse, yet who could have foreseen you'd secretly rise through the ranks and become a true dragon? Lord Leor's every word dripped with venom, each syllable soaked in bloodlust, choking me until I could barely breathe, yet this physical pain paled against the endless ache swelling in my heart. In that hazy moment, I finally understood why Lord Leor would always burst into laughter when his gaze fell upon me. His affection wasn't for me, he merely saw Drake's suffering reflected in this disgrace of the Phoenix clan. From the very beginning, he approached me with ulterior motives, yet I foolishly regarded him as a well-meaning elder. Just as Duping said, I really am a stupid chicken. Immortal Leor knows the truth of what happened back then, that divine lightning struck your wicked parents, those who exploited the people with harsh taxes and cruel laws. All to build lavish temples for your glory. When you cry injustice for your parents, did you ever spare a thought for the commoners who died starving in the streets? This was heavenly justice. Drake frowned slightly at me, his fists clenching and unclenching. Besides, grievances have their source and debts their creditor. If you've got a problem, take it up with me. Why harm her? That's when it hit me why Drake had been so wary of immortal Lior. He'd known about this old grudge all along and feared I'd be used as a pawn. But if that's the case, why didn't he just tell me outright? Drake pressed his lips together and gave me a worried glance. Lord Lior, Iris regards you as her own brother. How could you use her like this? Seeing him in such a pitiful state, my heart ached slightly, so he remained silent all this time, just to preserve Lior's image in my eyes. Lior smirked coldly before tossing a gleaming dagger my way. When my family perished in flames, the agony seared through my very soul. They say no pain compares to flaying a dragon's scales and tendons. Tell me, how far would you go for her? A chill shot down my spine, freezing me from crown to heel. A dragon's sinews are its lifeblood. Tearing them out raw would mean certain death for Drake. Drake, don't you dare do something reckless. My desperate cry fell on deaf ears as the gleaming blade still came hurtling toward Drake. He looked at me with a gentle smile. Don't be sad, Iris. You know I'm invincible. Like hell I believe that. Can't you stop showing off even at a time like this? Oh wait, showing off will get you killed too. Without the slightest hesitation, Drake drove the blade straight into his back, as he grunted and prepared to drag the cold steel downward. My blood surged and I violently coughed up a mouthful of blood. My body alternates between chills and feverish heat, while my guts writhe as if devoured by a swarm of venomous serpents, an agony beyond endurance. Lior, you poisoned the wine. Never in my wildest dreams did I imagine he'd planned my death from the very beginning. I stared at the figure before me with desperate clarity, my blurred vision sharpening unnaturally in this moment of reckoning. After all my respect and reverence for you, even regretting not making you my mentor, Lior, I'll kill you. Drake's eyes bulged with fury, desperate to charge forward but immobilized as the icy blade pinned his draconic tendons. He could only glare upward, seething at the triumphant Lior. I want to become stronger, for no other reason than to protect those I care about, yet no matter how hard I try, I'm just a useless golden pheasant with an enormous appetite, and the most frustrating part, I'm not even that bright. Even when being played for a fool, they'd still grin like an idiot while handing over the knife and counting the money for their betrayer. I should have known it was you the moment I saw that ominous aura around Dupang. Ominous aura, Lior scoffed, dismissing my words as nonsense. With a swift motion, the slender blade came to rest against my throat. Drake, I won't grant you an easy death. You'll live in agony, watching your beloved perish before your eyes, witnessing our clans slaughter each other because of you. I'll make your life a living hell. Hell no. Who dares lay a finger on my man? A surge of raw power flooded my veins. As the blade tip touched my throat, my hand shot up to block it. The sword that could cleave iron like mud shattered upon touching my hand. In the next instant, I saw the answer reflected in Lior's terrified eyes. Flames now wreathed my body, illuminating the fear in his eyes and revealing my own transformed appearance. Each of my eyes now bore double pupils. You're actually the legendary vermilion bird that appears once in 10,000 years. Before Lior could finish speaking, my flames scorched him. His mortal experiences had left him terrified of fire. A mere brush with the flames sent him tumbling to the ground in disarray. Defenses shattered. How could I possibly let him off easy? I launched a flying kick straight at his chest, shaking off my iridescent plumage. I smashed this wretched place to smithereens. In this world, there are things we do, and things we don't. At least this one thing Lior said was right. Our people will make you pay for your crimes. Consider this borrowed time. With that, I turned and carried Drake away. His meridians must have been damaged. Drake's face burned hotter, his breathing growing ragged. Does it hurt badly? Drake averted his gaze and stammered. You should put your clothes on first. Only then did I realize I'd been so indignant that I'd shaken off most of my feathers, now in human form. She appeared far too alluring in Drake's eyes. Lior succumbed to demonic corruption, attempting to incite conflict between the two clans, crimes for which he was severely punished, stripped of immortal bones and cast down to endure mortal tribulations. Yet whether Phoenix clan or Dragonkin, both were races that nursed grievances and repaid slights tenfold. I don't need to see it to know Lior's mortal descent must be fraught with hardships, though calamities befell me. It was Lior's poisoning that accidentally awakened my ancestral bloodline, and I, an unremarkable yet once in a neon vermilion bird, became the most coveted treasure across all realms. The immortal peaches in Elder Shishan's garden have ripened today, and he's invited me for a tasting. Then the celestial beings of Punlai asked me to sample their newly refined elixir. Not to mention my ability to detect demonic energy. Sometimes I even get summoned to celestial banquets as a temporary security scanner. Ah, what a bothersome existence. Now that I'm officially the top bird in all realms, I've got to maintain some dignity. If the pay isn't good enough, count me out. After this incident, I finally understand why Drake always smelled so delicious to me. Because the vermilion bird possesses boundless divine power and an enormous appetite, particularly for dragonkind. Of course, my way of eating is quite different. Right then, Drake lay collapsed on the bed, his face flushed. Seeing my lingering appetite, he gave a weak chuckle, his voice faint with exhaustion. Iris, this is already the 10th time. I shook my head, but seeing him all sweaty like this only made me crave him more. Darling, I'm just helping you grow stronger. Drake was always quicker than me. He caught on immediately and flushed crimson. How could I pass up this golden chance to tease him? Leaning down to whisper by his ear, her hands traced fiery paths across his luminous skin. They say dual cultivation surpasses chi transmission 10,000-fold. Shall we practice a few more times? The night stretched endlessly before them. The end. Story 2. Just before the zombie outbreak, I was catching my cheating boyfriend's mistress. I was hitting the mistress, and then her mother hit me back. My cheating boyfriend was trying to stop the fight, and then the zombies came. The four of us were trapped together. To survive, they wanted to throw me to the zombies as food. 01. Actually, I had suspected that Theodore was cheating on me for a long time before, who would spray on a whole lot of perfume just for going jogging at night. Theodore would, rain or shine, he would go jogging on time every night without fail, so I secretly installed a locator on his phone. When I followed the location and got there, I found the address was room 1003, building 5, Kaching Garden. That was our wedding house. I had worked myself to the bone to buy it with full payment, just so that we could have a little place of our own after getting married. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I wouldn't have believed it. Theodore was secretly keeping a mistress outside and had a child several years old with her. This place was not only where he had an affair with the mistress but also became the home of the mistress and her mother. Willow, why are you here? Theodore opened the door and looked at me in shock. His voice was trembling, and his face turned pale the moment he saw me. Theodore, how dare you? I pushed him aside and walked into the wedding house. He told me last week that the wedding house hadn't been decorated yet and that he wanted to design it himself to give me the warmest home, but in the end, my dream home had become a hiding place for him and his mistress. Theodore, who is that knocking at the door just now? A girl in pajamas walked out of the bedroom, holding a baby in her arms and gently coaxing it. She looked only in her early 20s, with the figure of a breastfeeding mother. Willow, yours? I pointed at the baby in her arms. Ava hesitated for a moment and then nodded. I remembered that Theodore and I had lived together for 2 years, but we had never slept together, because Theodore said that we should save the most beautiful memories for our wedding night. He had such affectionate eyes back then. I looked at Ava. She had a cute appearance, not the sexy type. Ava was a classmate of Theodore's and mine in graduate school. We were all majoring in biological research. Ava was also Theodore's teammate in experiments. Theodore told me that getting into graduate school didn't matter much in life, but Ava was different. She came from the mountains and had a tough life, so he wanted to take her with him in experiments more often. And I believed him. Willow, I'm sorry. Theodore's eyes were red, and his face was full of apology. Who are you? An aunt in the kitchen came over with a spatula, looking fierce. The fat on her belly was shaking. She had a kind of plateau red on her face, and her skin didn't look very smooth. Who are you? I asked back. I'm Ava's mother. Oh, I nodded. By this point, not only Ava had moved in, but her mother as well, and they even brought a baby along. I laughed, and tears came out while I was laughing. At that moment, something in my mind snapped. I couldn't bear it anymore and went up to slap Ava. She couldn't take it and staggered back a few steps while holding the baby, looking weak and fragile. She was crying like a pear flower in the rain and said, "You can't hit people like this even if you're angry." What a white lotus. I spat in disgust. I'll hit you if I want to, sister. Ava's mother was extremely unhappy when she saw me hitting her daughter. She took a step forward and directly hit my back with the spatula in her hand. The baby was taken away by Theodore, and the little thing kept crying in his arms. I was pulling Ava's hair, Ava's mother was punching my back, and Ava was scratching my face. The scene was chaotic. The cheating bastard was jumping around anxiously beside us, shouting, "Stop fighting. Bah, what a scumbag." His voice made me even angrier. I was strong and hit hard. The three of us women were evenly matched. 0-2. Suddenly, there was a sharp electric current sound from the TV. The light bulb above our heads was flickering, and the sky outside had somehow turned dark gray. It was no longer bright inside the house. It became noisy downstairs. It seemed that many people were running around downstairs, and the ground was shaking with each step. The last time I felt like this was during an earthquake. The three of us seemed to be petrified. We were still grabbing each other but didn't continue fighting. Everything became abnormal. Theodore quickly ran to the window and looked downstairs. His hands holding the baby were trembling, and his legs were shaking too. He barely managed to hold onto the window frame and kept shouting while looking down, "They're not humans, they're monsters." I shuddered and immediately let go of Ava's collar, preparing to go over and see what was going on downstairs. Let go. Ava's mother was still grabbing my hair. I shouted at her. Maybe she was scared by my look. She stared blankly for a moment and then let go of my hair. After seeing clearly what was going on downstairs, I felt my scalp go numb. Many people were killing each other. Well, maybe they couldn't be called people anymore. They're zombies. I was sure that these were zombies. There was blood and body parts everywhere on the ground. Some of them had no heads, some had no legs, and some had no upper limbs. But they were all moving in extremely strange postures, biting normal humans. They were wailing. Ava and her mother also quickly ran over and looked downstairs through the window. Her mother screamed and fainted directly. Ava was crying nonstop, hugging Theodore's arm and saying, "Theodore, what should we do? I don't want to die." Theodore's lips were a bit purple, and he kept shaking his head. His clothes were covered with Ava's snot and tears. "What should we do? What should we do? Don't be afraid. We'll be okay." They hugged each other and comforted each other. I looked at them coldly. When people are faced with a desperate situation and are betrayed by those closest to them, they will feel even more desperate than just being in despair. There was a knock on the door, one after another, a very heavy sound. Everyone was startled by the sudden noise. There were all kinds of howls and cries outside. "Don't bite me, no." It was the clear sound of flesh being torn. Ava and I were so stimulated that we retched. We bent over, feeling like vomiting but couldn't. I remembered the days when I was doing biological experiments. The frog's skin was peeled off, but its muscles were still twitching along with the tendons. Through the thin film of blood vessels, it was like breathing, going up and down. Just when we were all in despair, the knocking on the door stopped. All the sounds disappeared. 03. The world seemed to become quiet again. The electric current sound of the TV also stopped. And now it was playing the news channel. Recently, there have been multiple incidents of people eating people in our province. The mutation situation is currently unclear, and the number of mutated people is increasing. The situation broke out suddenly, and all the police have been dispatched. Please, citizens, try not to go out to avoid unnecessary harm. The female announcer on TV was speaking clearly and slowly, word by word. "So how long do we have to stay at home? Who will come to save us? What if the zombies get in?" Ava kept asking questions while leaning in Theodore's arms. Theodore put his arm around her waist and said, "Ava, don't worry, we'll protect you too." I snorted coldly. Theodore then realized that I was still there. He looked up with an unclear expression and said, "Willow, you can leave when the situation gets better." "What do you mean?" I couldn't believe it. Even if there was no love between us anymore, he couldn't go so far as to put me in a deadly situation, could he? "When there are fewer zombies, you can go back." "Yeah, senior sister, we'll have problems with food if we all stay here." I was so angry that I was shaking. "Theodore, you didn't pay a penny for this house. I bought it with full payment. What right do you have to drive me away? Do you really think of this place as your own home after staying here for so long?" I stared at them coldly, feeling extremely indifferent. "It's you who should leave." A flash of embarrassment crossed Theodore's and Ava's faces. I never knew that people could be so thick-skinned. Why did they hate me so much that they even wanted to push me to my death? Ava's mother woke up. She was still a bit dazed and didn't know exactly what had happened. Ava went over to help her up and told her about what was said on the news. The aunt screamed again in fright. I had a headache. Were they a family of screamers? The daughter screamed, and then the mother did too. "Can you be quiet, right now? The most important thing is that we should think about how to survive." I paused for a moment. "If you're so obsessed with arguing about whose house this is, then you can all leave." Ava's mother was angry but didn't dare to say anything. She clearly knew that her daughter was a mistress but still pretended not to know and moved into my house openly. As for Theodore, I had seen through him completely. What a scumbag. If I could survive and go back, I would definitely make him pay the price. 04. I was grateful to myself for working hard to earn money back then. This house was quite big, with 3 bedrooms and 2 living rooms. Ava and her daughter lived in the master bedroom, which was full of baby supplies. If it weren't for the sake of the child, I wouldn't have made myself stay in the second bedroom and feel aggrieved. There wasn't much food here, only enough for us to eat for a week. I endured it when Ava's mother only gave me half a bowl of rice every day. I endured it when they secretly ate food in the kitchen. As long as I could stay alive, as long as I was still alive, there would always be hope. But they were secretly planning to throw me out. I couldn't bear this. Living in my house and still wanting to take my life. The TV outside was still on, and the hostess's hoarse and weak voice came from it. "Judging from the current situation, this abnormal phenomenon will continue for a long time. Residents should stock up on more food and daily necessities as much as possible under safe conditions and avoid contact with people outside." I was lying on the bed, feeling a bit lost. What the TV broadcast every day was just these words over and over again. There were also zombies coming these days, but they just couldn't get in through this door, so we felt a bit more relieved. "Theodore, did you ask your supervisor? What should we do now?" "He hasn't replied to me." "Mom, I don't know how Dad is at home. There's no signal every day. Only the TV can work. Maybe this situation only happened in our province. Dad is in another province, so he might be safe." Alas, their voices talking outside faintly reached my ears. Nobody knew when the world would become normal again. I was still lost in my own thoughts, and then there was another knock on the door outside. 05. I immediately sat up from the bed. I ran to the door, stood on tiptoe, and looked out through the peephole. Theodore and the others also ran over, holding various tools in their hands, ready for battle. There was a boy standing outside the door. He was clean without any blood on him, and his face looked very anxious. "Willow, are you in there?" He knocked on the door urgently, not too heavily but very quickly. He was polite, but just a little bit. I listened to his voice. The boy's face outside the door looked a bit familiar, but I couldn't remember who he was. How did he know me? He looked like a normal person. I hesitated, wondering whether to open the door for him or not. Willow, bang bang bang. He was still knocking on the door. Who are you? I asked him while lying on the door. Willow, I'm so glad you're still alive. Before he could finish his sentence, a strange sound came from outside. The zombies are coming. Through the peephole, I saw several zombies slowly climbing up from downstairs. They had no heads and moved very slowly. They were heading towards the boy outside the door. Zombies only bite people. They were going to bite that boy. So the person outside the door was a human. Should I save him or not? The sounds outside were getting closer. I hesitated inside. If I opened the door and the zombies rushed in and ate us, what should I do? I didn't notice that Ava's mother was winking at Theodore behind me. Suddenly, the door was pushed open by someone. I was pushed out with a great force and bumped into the boy's arms outside the door. His chest was hard, and the impact made my nose turn red from the pain. I saw Theodore's guilty look and heard him say, "Willow, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." After saying that, he was about to close the door. The zombies were getting closer and closer to me and the boy, 06. I hadn't recovered from the shock yet. Then I was pushed into the room with even greater force. I was like a ball, being held in someone's arms in a daze. The one who held me was the boy who had knocked on the door just now. He smelled of nice herbs, just when the zombies were about to bite us. He used even more force to push Theodore away and got us safely into the room. Theodore looked at me and this boy with a panicked look in his eyes. The sound of the zombies scratching at the door and their shrill howls still came from outside. Ava took a step back in fright. The room was in sharp contrast to the outside. It was extremely quiet inside. I still couldn't get out of the sudden situation just now. Just a little bit, just a tiny bit. We would have become zombies. Theodore had no feelings for me anymore. I had seen that clearly these days. But he pushed me out to save himself and let the zombies eat me. I just couldn't accept this. How could a person's heart be so black? Are you okay, Willow? The boy who saved me held my arm and looked me up and down to make sure I wasn't hurt. Then he let out a sigh of relief. I came to my senses and indicated that I was okay. Who are you? Until now, I still couldn't remember who he was and why he knew my name and address. He was stunned for a moment and then looked a bit disappointed. Once when you were on your way to the laboratory, the little white mouse in your hand escaped, and I helped you catch it. That time, I didn't dare to operate on the white mouse. My hand was shaking all the way, and it slipped out of my hand. It was this boy who passed by and helped me catch it. Thank you. I still don't know your name. Tobias. He seemed very excited. I didn't understand why. But my mind was full of questions about the outside world. How did you find me? Were there zombies on the way? Is it safe outside? He hesitated for a while and then looked at me shyly. My home is right across from yours. It was safe when I came to look for you just now. You're my neighbor. I was surprised. Tobias nodded. Willow, what should we do now? Is he going to stay here too? Theodore interrupted our conversation. He looked gloomy. It was the first time I had seen Theodore like this. I went out without my key. Tobias looked embarrassed. Theodore. You guys pack up and leave. I took a deep breath. Theodore frowned, gritted his teeth, and looked completely incredulous. What do you mean? If I go out, I'll die? Willow, damn it. He still knew that he would die if he went out. Didn't you think that I would die just now? I was still in shock. Go and live somewhere else. This is my house. This time, I was extremely determined. Ava was the first to react. Her lips turned pale, and she said, Willow, you can't do this to us. The baby in her arms seemed to sense something and kept crying. I was so annoyed by the crying that I had a headache. Theodore suddenly knelt down and moved on his knees in front of me. Willow, I'm wrong. I shouldn't have treated you like this. Don't drive me away. We'll die if we go out. We really will die. Theodore was crying so hard that his snot and tears were mixed together. Ava and her mother saw that I didn't respond, so they also quickly knelt down. The baby was put on the ground, kicking its legs and crying. Seeing this scene, I couldn't bear it. If they went out, they would really die, for lives. But I couldn't forget what Theodore and the others had just done to me. If I drove them away, it would be quiet here. Let them stay for now. Tobias suddenly spoke up. He quietly leaned over to me and said, You couldn't even bear to kill the little white mouse in the experiment. Tobias, who I hardly had any contact with, knew me so well. I really hated the three of them. If the situation gets a little better, you should leave here immediately. Thank you, Willow. Thank you, 07, Willow. Tobias stammered. Isn't Theodore your boyfriend? After dinner, he came to my room. The relationships among the people in this house were extremely complicated and full of drama. I knew what Tobias meant. He cheated on me. That baby is his and Ava's child. By now, I didn't care about all this anymore. I didn't have much feeling for Theodore either. How did you know I lived here? I was still very puzzled. Did you have enough for dinner? Tobias changed the topic. A pot of millet porridge was shared among 5 adults, and it could only fill our stomachs a little. Tobias was a tall guy, over 1.8 meters. He probably didn't have enough to eat. How about you? I asked him back. Here, have this to fill your stomach a bit. He took out half a piece of chocolate from his pocket. I ate some at home. Let's share it. We'll each have half. Tobias was afraid that I wouldn't take it, so he divided the chocolate into 2 pieces. The taste was a bit different from what I had eaten before. It had a herbal smell, but when I put it in my mouth, it had a rich and mellow flavor. Willow. I looked up at him. Tobias was so tall that I had to look up. Can I sleep in your room tonight? I'll just sleep on the floor. Tobias said it carefully. I don't know why, but I believed him. From the first moment I saw him, I felt that he didn't have any bad intentions. They treated you like that at dinner. I'm worried about you staying alone here. I agreed. 08. Tobias' worry wasn't unfounded, because just 3 days after we managed to survive like this, Theodore caused trouble again. There was hardly any food left that we could eat, but the situation outside hadn't improved at all. Tobias and I discussed and planned to go out to find some food and then leave this place. I have food in the trunk of my car. Tobias quietly told me. Suddenly, the door of my room was opened. Then let's go quickly. It was Theodore. He was really good at eavesdropping. Tobias' face clearly changed a bit when he saw Theodore looking greedy. He was quite glad that he hadn't finished what he was saying just now. We decided that Tobias, Theodore, Ava, and I would go to the underground garage. Ava's mother would stay at home to take care of the baby. Take this. It can protect you when it's crucial. Tobias handed me a spatula. Looking very serious, the current situation made me want to laugh. If the zombies really came, it would all depend on luck. With my small arms and legs, I couldn't defend myself with just a spatula. There was a cool square object in my palm. I'll also be by your side. Let's see later. Tobias looked around. Theodore and Ava were busy looking for things that could be used for defense everywhere. Their attention wasn't on us. I felt the small object in my palm. It was what Tobias had secretly handed to me when he gave me the spatula. He seemed not to want Theodore and the others to know that I had this. I didn't know what it was. Theodore and Ava looked extremely scared. They were covered with all kinds of tools, brooms, clothes hangers, kitchen knives, and even their babies' drumsticks toys. In contrast, Tobias and I only prepared one thing each for self-defense. What are you taking this wire for? I looked at the wire in Tobias' hand, puzzled. It'll be useful later. Tobias smiled like a fox, but I had to admit that he made me feel very safe. Let's go when we're ready. Theodore and Ava nodded and followed us timidly. Mom, if we don't come back, you must take good care of the baby, Ava said to her mother as if she were leaving her last words before going out. Mom will wait for you. The two hugged each other reluctantly. I really didn't understand their mother-daughter affection because I had known since I could remember that I was an orphan. Let's go. Mom, I'll protect Ava. Finally, Theodore pulled her away. 09. We went out after being locked in the room for many days. The host on TV said that the zombies had a pattern when they went out. There would be a big riot every 30 minutes. 5 minutes had passed since the zombies disappeared last time, so we had 25 minutes to get the food we wanted. The air outside smelled terrible, full of dust. It was as if the room had been sealed for many days without any fresh air coming in. We had to take the emergency staircase to the underground garage. The stairs were in a terrible state, covered with blood everywhere, and there were even some pieces of flesh hanging on the handrails of the stairs. There was a strong smell of blood and decay everywhere. Ava couldn't stop retching behind us. Theodore supported her, and the two of them were walking very slowly. Are you okay? Tobias turned around, his eyes showing concern. I quietly suppressed the nausea in my throat and shook my head. He quickly took my hand and pulled me into his arms. With his left hand, he secretly took something out of his pocket and gently put it close to my nose. There was a fragrant smell of traditional Chinese medicine. I don't know if it was psychological, but I really felt less nauseated after smelling it. Tobias saw that I was feeling better and let me go from his arms. Ava was still retching. Theodore was so stimulated by her retching that he started retching himself. Tobias looked at them coldly a few times and didn't pay any attention to them. It seemed that he didn't want to use this precious thing on them. I'm not a saint either. Looking at them being so sick from nausea, I couldn't help but find it funny. We need to walk faster. There's not much time left. Tobias walked quickly in front. We started from the 10th floor, and now we had just reached the 5th floor. I quickly caught up with him. Going downstairs was easy, but going upstairs would be difficult. It would be even more tiring to carry things and go back up later. I was thinking randomly when suddenly I accidentally stepped on empty air. I directly slipped and fell onto the next step of the stairs. What's wrong? Tobias heard my soft cry and quickly came to my side. I felt a sharp pain in my foot. I think I sprained my ankle. Tobias squatted down and gently rubbed my foot. Does it still hurt? He looked up at me. This is such a waste of time. It was Theodore who spoke. He and Ava looked impatient. The license plate number of my car ends with 239. You can go down and look for it first. Tobias was still rubbing my foot. expressionless as he said this to them. Theodore and Ava took the car key and went down first. They ran faster than anyone else. Their behavior was really ugly. I pulled my foot out of Tobias' palm and moved my ankle a little. It's much better. It wasn't that serious anyway. I wanted to walk faster to find the car and then go back to the safe room. Moreover, I was really worried about Theodore and Ava going to get the food. They would definitely keep it for themselves. Walk slowly. I've got a backup plan. Tobias looked proud. I have another house on the second floor, and there's more food in it. I widened my eyes in surprise. Why didn't he tell me earlier? I don't have the key. Tobias spread his hands. Well, then we could only hope that there was enough food in the trunk of his car. Actually, I know how to pick locks. I widened my eyes again in surprise. With this wire, Tobias took out the wire that he had taken at home from his pocket. He rubbed his head, looking a bit embarrassed. The lock of my house is quite old. This wire is enough. All right, I admit that it might not be proper, but I still followed Tobias to his house. Theodore and Ava were completely forgotten by us. 10. We arrived at the second floor. Sure enough, Tobias knew how to pick locks. He opened the door with just a few tries. He turned sideways and invited me to go in. The decoration inside was modern, neat but covered with a lot of dust. I couldn't help coughing a few times. Is your rhinitis acting up? Tobias handed me the medicine on the console. Nasal spray, works in half a minute. It was the brand I usually used. How did you know I have rhinitis? I always saw you secretly spraying medicine in the library. I remembered that I was afraid of disturbing the classmates who were studying, so I had to spray the medicine quietly. He even knew such a small thing. Tobias was like a treasure chest or like Doraemon. He always showed up when I needed him and brought me the things I needed. But he was also very mysterious, because I knew nothing about him. Tobias, why are you so nice to me? I couldn't hold it in anymore. This lack of control over the information made me feel uneasy. Willow, anyway, I won't harm you. I believed him. I don't know why, but I just did. Tobias took me to a room. He opened the door, and a lot of dust flew towards us. The curtains were drawn tightly, and it was very dark inside. Click! Tobias turned on the light, and the room became bright. I was shocked. How many more surprises did Tobias have that I didn't know about? This place was just like a convenience store. There were all kinds of instant food, water, and even my favorite drink. You've been hiding this really well. I had to look at him with new respect. Willow, actually, I want to tell you that this zombie incident didn't happen suddenly. Tobias suddenly became very serious. I could hear the helplessness in his tone. I was just about to ask him what was going on when I was startled by a scream outside. It was the voices of Theodore and Ava, Tobias, and I came to the door. I stopped just before opening the door. It should be the time for the zombies to come out. They were probably in great danger now. Should we save them or not? I really didn't want to save those ungrateful people. Willow, Tobias, where are you? Run. The zombies are here. Judging from the voices, Theodore and Ava should be at the stairway. There were also sounds of fighting and resisting. Theodore, save me, save me. Ava seemed to still be on the stairs. Let's go and help them. Tobias picked up a key from the console. It should be the key to this house. He took the lead and walked straight out of the door. He stood outside and motioned for me to follow. I'll protect you. It seemed that he really wasn't afraid of the zombies at all. 11. Tobias walked in front of me. The corridor was filled with the howls of the zombies and their screams. I followed Tobias, holding a rolling pin in my hand. This was crazy. I actually agreed to go with him to save those scumbags. The door behind us was closed tightly, and the key was with Tobias. Even if I wanted to go back and slack off, I couldn't. Tobias stopped. I didn't react in time and bumped into his back. His back was really hard. He put a finger to his lips to signal me to be quiet. There was only one zombie in the stairway. Theodore and Ava should be able to deal with one zombie easily, right, but they were shouting and screaming like crazy dogs. It didn't seem easy at all. Ava was hiding behind Theodore, holding a bunch of food in her arms, crying with snot and tears all over her face. It was so disgusting. Tobias and I hid behind the door and watched their panic for a while. TSK, TSK, TSK. It was really an ugly sight. I even thought maliciously that it would be better if the zombies ate them. Tobias was about to push the door open and go out. Are you really planning to save them? I grabbed Tobias' hand, looking completely incredulous. They were just classmates at most, not relatives. Was it worth risking our lives just because of that scumbag? I didn't understand. Later, I found out that it was all Tobias' trick. Because he knew Theodore too well. Just stay behind me. If anything goes wrong, you run away quickly. Tobias handed me the key to that house. He was so considerate. I was so touched that I almost wanted to cry and run away right then. But what if he got hurt when he went alone? Tobias, save us. Theodore saw us appear, and his eyes brightened a lot. He was still waving a broom, trying to fight the zombie. The zombie in front of us was really disgusting. With pus oozing from its body and giving off a stench, it was missing one foot and walking crookedly. Its hand was also broken. It was a disabled zombie. If it could move more freely, Theodore and Ava wouldn't have survived for more than 5 minutes. Stop shouting and leave here quickly. Tobias paused for a moment, his expression serious. There will be more zombies coming soon. Ava trembled obviously when she heard that there would be more zombies. The steps where they were standing were very close to us. The zombie was in front of them, so they couldn't get through. Tobias and I were protected tightly by them. Moreover, as long as they took one step back, they could close this door and keep the zombies isolated in the stairway. But Tobias didn't step back to make room for them. I suddenly realized that he was a bit sly. Run upstairs. You'll be okay if you run back. Tobias smiled and gave them a hint. Theodore was panting heavily. I'm really too tired to run. I'm already exhausted just fighting this one. He wanted to slack off, but we wouldn't let him have his way. Tobias and I stood straight, just like we were standing at attention during military training. Save us, Ava screamed in a breakdown. They were so tired that they were almost exhausted. Tobias pulled them behind him to protect me, and then kicked the zombie away. He closed the door in one go. Theodore and Ava were lying on the ground, gasping for breath. With beads of sweat all over their foreheads, most of the food in the trunk of the car had fallen out. Ava was only left with a few bags of snacks in her arms. After they caught their breath, they had a resentful look on their faces. If you had come earlier, these foods wouldn't have fallen. I was so angry at Ava's crazy words that I laughed. What an ungrateful wretch. 12. I really wanted to argue with them, but Tobias held me back. Leave here quickly. The zombies are coming. His expression was extremely serious, his brows furrowed, and I could feel his muscles tensing up. He was always ready for battle. The elevator beside us was slowly rising from the basement floor. The closer it got to us, the weirder the sounds became, and they were getting louder and louder. The four of us stared fixedly at the elevator door. The elevator reached the first floor. It stopped. We could clearly hear the elevator door open and then close. There were more noisy sounds in the corridor. We all knew from the terrified looks in each other's eyes that the elevator was full of zombies. We couldn't use the stairway anymore, and the elevator was full of zombies too. I was clutching the key in my hand. That was our only way out. Theodore and Ava had dull expressions on their faces, leaning against the wall, scared out of their wits. That was the way out for Tobias and me, but not for them. We had just saved them. But they still hadn't changed their ways. They were still as ungrateful as before, and their ugly looks were really disgusting. I quietly tugged at Tobias and glanced at the house we had just been in, signaling him. Tobias smiled at me. He squeezed my fingers. He understood what I meant. Before we could move towards the door, the elevator door opened. 5 zombies stumbled out. They seemed excited when they smelled humans. Theodore and Ava started screaming again like they were screamers. There were only 5 zombies. Tobias could probably kick them away with just a few kicks. I was so protected by Tobias that I became a bit overconfident. I didn't care about my own safety at all. Honey, save me. Ava was dragged by a zombie, and she was about to be bitten. Theodore was still in a daze. I sighed. I'd better help them. I went up and kicked Theodore's but hard, making him quickly move to Ava's side. The terrifying aura of the zombies made him come to his senses. He joined Ava in the fight. I was quite satisfied. Husband and wife fighting together. How nice. Tobias took out the square thing that he had let me smell in the stairway just now from his pocket. If a zombie gets close to you, just touch it with this. I held the cool square thing in my hand. A zombie tried to bite my head, and I touched it with the square. The place where the zombie's skin touched the square instantly turned red. It screamed as if being burned. This was a magical thing. Tobias was really an angel. He became even more impressive in my heart. Tobias quickly dealt with several zombies. Don't bite me, bite her. Theodore was hitting the zombie's head with a pot lid, but the flesh on his arm was already torn and turned outwards. He tried hard to push the zombie towards Ava. Theodore, what kind of man are you? Ava was so angry that she cursed loudly. Both of their clothes were torn to shreds by the zombies, just left in strips. Ava's legs seemed to be injured too, with black blood oozing out. We had a special smell from the square on us, so the zombies didn't dare to approach us and all went to bite them instead. Go and bite that woman. Don't bite me. Theodore was lying on the ground, rolling around constantly. He even wanted the zombies to come and bite me. He deliberately ran in front of Tobias and me, trying to attract the zombies over. The zombies knew there was that smell around us and didn't dare to come closer. Ava was bitten and lying on the ground, unable to move away. Save me, Theodore, you save me, Ava kept begging him. Theodore had a blank expression and looked coldly at everything in front of him. He didn't even stretch out a helping hand to Ava. They used to love each other so much, but now they seemed like enemies. Theodore hid behind Tobias and me to protect himself. Ava was moaning in pain on the ground. The zombies were tearing at her flesh, and soon she was covered in blood all over. Suddenly, a great force pushed me towards Ava. I turned around and saw that it was Theodore. He was grinning. Theodore's mental state was very bad. His pupils and his whole state were no different from those of a zombie. He had been infected. I was pushed onto the zombie, and the stench made me want to cry. The zombie reacted even more strongly than I did. As soon as I touched it, it dodged faster than I did. I quickly returned to Tobias' side. Tobias signaled me to open the door. Theodore was staring straight at us, his eyeballs not moving at all. Ava was moaning on the ground, but he didn't have any reaction. My hands were shaking constantly, and I couldn't insert the key into the keyhole several times. After a few tries, the door finally opened. Theodore suddenly howled and wanted to bite Tobias. I was so frightened that I froze for a moment. Then I picked up the rolling pin that I had dropped on the ground just now and hit Theodore hard on the head. Theodore's gaze shifted to me again. He's different. Go inside the house first. I didn't quite understand what Tobias said, but I understood that I should go into a safe place. Theodore kept trying to attack us, baring his teeth and wanting to bite me. Damn it, at the last second before entering the house, I gave him another hard slap. 13. I was so tired that I lay on the porch. Gasping for breath, Tobias looked at me with a meaningful expression. We looked at each other and then laughed. I deliberately let you go and save them just now. You wanted me to see Theodore's true face. Tobias smiled. I already saw it clearly. I took off my shoes and walked towards the sofa barefoot. Tobias squatted down and helped me put my shoes away neatly. However, next time, if you want to court me, you can change your way. Tobias was really cunning. To make me completely give up on Theodore, he used a little trick to let me see Theodore's ugly side. I had already been disgusted by Theodore long ago. Like what? Tobias sat in front of me, looking extremely serious. After the zombies disappear, you can send me flowers. Tobias smiled again. What are you laughing at? He was such a handsome guy, but he always had a silly smile on his face, making him seem a bit stupid. The zombies will disappear in a few days, Tobias said it with certainty. How do you know? I frowned. This virus was developed by Theodore and Ava. I was shocked. I couldn't believe that they were smart enough to create the zombie virus. Tobias told me that Theodore and Ava, in order to win the Scientific Research Achievement Award designed by their supervisor, randomly developed experimental drugs. As a result, their research went out of control, and the virus really appeared. They had also done several experiments on themselves during the experiment. The antidote and the drugs used in the experiment counteracted each other, so once they were bitten by zombies, the virus would have a negative equals positive effect, and the virus would disappear. But looking at Theodore and Ava's situation, they didn't seem to know that this zombie virus was developed by them. And how do you know? Tobias was from a different department. How could he know so clearly about the things in our department? Because your supervisor is my father. He just figured out all this. He said that this virus can be cured by taking the antidote, and those who are infected will lose control of their cerebellum and do things that harm others. I was shocked. Then, will those people whose limbs are broken recover after taking the antidote? Tobias was silent. Yeah, in the end, as long as we could survive, that would be okay. Sure enough, after a few days, the zombie virus disappeared completely. But some of the people who were injured by the zombie virus could never recover from some of the injuries. Ava's mother and the child starved to death in the house. When they were found, the bodies had already started to smell bad. Today, the weather was especially nice, the clearest day since the zombie virus disappeared. Tobias came to see me with a bouquet of flowers. He told me he had paid attention to these things not only because his father, who was a supervisor, was so worried that he almost went bald, but also because he wanted to protect the person who was afraid of the little white mouse during the experiment.